Character name, Karzahni, the Transposer. Originally debuted October 2020. Overall look and changes. After completing Artaka, I had a lot of inspiration for building characters from Bionicle lore, and who better to build next than the big man's brother? I had seen a lot of people making MOCs of Karzahni in the past, but none had ever really stood out to me as being a really good representation of the character. For my version, I wanted to stick to his canon artwork's design as closely as possible, even if some details of that picture aren't exactly canon. I tried to match the image's colors as closely as possible, but also do a bit to fix his proportions from how they were shown in the image. I think he turned out great, and can now happily say there's a physical model of Karzahni that looks as good as the canon image. He hasn't changed much since his debut, so let's get on with the review. Character bio. Titles and occupations. Karzahni was created and placed in the Matoran universe even before Matanui himself. Shortly after his creation, the great beings Harimus and Angans held a contest between him and his brother Artaka for the legendary Mask of Creation. Artaka easily won this fight. While Artaka was awarded the legendary mask and given his own island to rule, Karzahni was given a very different mask and allowed to rule a much more desolate island. Like Artaka, he named this place after himself. While his brother made his island a haven for good Matoran workers, Karzahni chose to take in the bad ones, intending to repair their faults and return them to their homelands. However, his ability to fix the Matoran was not up to par, and he instead completely rebuilt the Matoran, but into weaker forms. He then sent them to the southern continent to make sure his failures would not be discovered. Because of this, he was reviled as the Transposer by Matoran before he and Artaka ultimately faded into legend. Personality. Karzahni was an insane and completely unpredictable sociopath. He could be friendly and kind one moment, and then go into a murderous rage the next. He possessed formidable strength, though he rarely used his might, choosing instead to defeat his opponents with his Kanohi's powers. He ruled his domain through fear and psychological abuse, such as replacing the masks of his Matoran subjects to rob them of their identities. He also had a major inferiority complex, and was horribly jealous of his brother Artaka. Because of this, he tended to constantly rebuild himself and change the color of his armor. He once appeared in black and gold armor, only to later change to this green and blue armor. In Night of Nights, his jealousy led him to attempt to conquer the Matoran universe by using a number of artifacts collected from alternate universes using a machine he created. How Karzahni gained the knowledge to create this machine is unknown. Abilities and powers. Karzahni had very few powers of note. His only unusual ability was telepathic scanning, which allows him to survey distant areas for anything of interest. Unlike his brother, he is unable to teleport himself or objects anywhere he chooses. Despite his realm being intended to be a place where broken Matoran could be fixed, Karzahni did not have the skills to repair the injuries he was presented with. He instead rebuilt the Matoran into weaker forms and eventually neglected them entirely. Due to his lack of skill in creation, the machine he built to gather artifacts from alternate universes malfunctioned, and ended up pulling anything that contained large amounts of energy from alternate universes rather than just powerful artifacts. Ultimately, the machine ended up bringing the planet of Luna Magna into the mainline Bionicle universe, permanently altering the course of events in the Bionicle story. Karzahni's actions caught the attention of the Master, the great sage of the multiverse. The great being brought Karzahni into his realm to intimidate him into accepting his proposition of becoming his servant. As the Master's servant, Karzahni was told to relay information on the ongoings of the Matoran universe to him. However, after several interactions with the great being, Karzahni started to lose his mind, and therefore lost most of his usefulness to the Master. After the reformation of Spherus Magna, Karzahni was murdered by a rogue great being named Velika, in an attempt to take out all of the most powerful beings in the Matoran universe. However, unbeknownst to Velika, Karzahni's death would end up attracting some unwanted attention. Important possessions. Karzahni wields a small forge hammer, which he uses both as a tool and a weapon. As well as that, he's armed with a length of chain that is capable of heating up until it bursts into flames. He wears the Kanohi Olisi, the Mask of Alternate Futures, which allows him to project a mental illusion of an alternate timeline or possible future into one or more beings' minds. This 3D printed part was made by Iron Foam Armory and painted by yours truly. MOC analysis. Inspiration and theme. My version of Karzahni was directly based on his artwork from the Bionicle Worldbook, where he was depicted like so. Canonically, Karzahni's armor in this picture is supposedly green and dark purple. I don't know about you guys, but I can't see this armor as purple at all. Obviously, it would be a lot harder to replicate this art using dark purple pieces. As well as that, I greatly dislike the way dark purple looks next to both mono green and dark green. All these factors led to my decision to use dark blue as his secondary armor color. Although the color looks closer to mono blue in the picture, dark blue gives him a much darker overall appearance and therefore, in my opinion, makes him more intimidating. Since I always give my characters a theme song from Toho Project, I decided to use Seija Kijin's theme, Reverse Ideology, due to the fact that she's one half of a pair of Toho characters who use a hammer as a weapon. Karzahni is fairly similar to Seija in many ways. They're both the more evil of their counterparts, they share some of the same character traits, and most notably, they both have horns of some sort. Karzahni's version of this theme is a folk/orchestral remix by Cajiva's Gadget Workshop. MOC Features. Karzahni has a connection point on his hammer that allows it to attach to his hands. His shoulder armor is mounted on ball joints and can be posed freely. Karzahni stands roughly 11 inches tall and 6 inches wide. MOC Articulation. Karzahni has 24 points of articulation overall. He has nearly full ankle articulation limited to the sides, a greater than 90-degree knee bend, full hip articulation, a double-jointed neck, 2 ball joint mounted shoulder pads, full shoulder articulation, a full swivel and slightly greater than 90-degree bend in the elbows, a full range of wrist articulation, and 3 fingers on each hand. Interesting building techniques. Some of the spikes on Karzahni's shoulder pads are attached with illegal friction-only techniques. This was necessary to get a similar look to the spikes in the artwork. The Technic panels on the side of his torso are held in place with a rubber lift arm piece, which is held down by the CCBS shell. He also has tires on his upper legs to fill in gaps around the CCBS bone. I utilized this illegal Matafoot technique on his lower arm to fill in some gaps and smooth out some of the Matafoot's texture. Notable flaws. His feet are somewhat small, which can lead to some balance issues. The Rakshi feet pieces can also somewhat hinder their articulation. The Visorak feet on his back are held up against the back armor using a rubber band and have a somewhat flimsy connection. Also, some of his greebles can be easily messed up if you're not careful. Gently handling this MOC can largely avoid these issues, however. Fun facts. Karzahni uses the same cape as his official set, which also pairs him up nicely with Artaka. If it looks a bit strange to you, that's because I got this cape from capesforminifigs.com, which is a much better alternative to buying used official LEGO Vison capes. I highly recommend it to mockists for purchasing new cloth elements in the future. He's about the same height as the official set, which I unfortunately don't have for a comparison. Instead, I'll refer you to this image from Duckbrick's review of this MOC. Overall thoughts and criticisms. Overall, I'm quite proud of this MOC. Without patting myself on the back too much, he's my favorite MOC representation of the character, and I'm greatly humbled to have heard the same opinion from many members of the BIONICLE community. Although he still isn't 100% accurate to the source artwork, such as with some of the color blocking on the torso and the proportions, I feel it's more than made up for by the features of the MOC and the overall character design, which, in my book, is everything. What would you rate this MOC out of 10? Any questions about the build or the character? Who would you like to see appear in the next MOC Spotlight? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.